Thanks. It has been 3 days since the attack in Jordan that killed 3 service members. The president said yesterday that he had decided how to respond, but we haven't seen any public action. Well, at least publicly, we haven't seen any action. So with every day that passes and no response, are you missing an opportunity to signal resolve?
I think we signal resolve pretty well. And as I said the other day, we'll respond on our own time, on our own schedule. And we'll do that. And I would also caution you not to think that the first thing you see, you talked about publicly seeing, not the first thing you see won't be the last thing.
Can you confidently say that Iranian-backed forces have not begun moving assets out of the region in anticipation of a possible retaliatory strike?
We're monitoring as best we can. I'm not going to speak about what the intelligence assessments tell us. But well, I'll just say that we're confident in the planning, and we're confident in the response.
Is it possible that they're moving assets out of the region as they're getting ready for the U.S. to respond?
I'm not going to talk about intelligence assessments. As the president said, we're going to respond, and we'll respond in an appropriate way.
Admiral, can you give us a little understanding of the process when the president said yes, very definitively, he'd made a decision, and yet we know there's still ongoing work related to the attribution and assessment of potential targets and those sorts of things. Is it a multi-part decision process for the president, or is the yes he gave already put into kind of the action that the Pentagon would need to go forward, or would he come back and review the specific targets and that kind? Can you shed any light on that longer process?
Just in terms of process, his decision to move forward was based on discussions that he had with his national security team over the previous 3 days, including yesterday. And when you're talking about what we're anticipating here, which won't just be a one-off, as I said, the first thing you see will not be the last thing. There's a lot of moving pieces in that, in terms of what you're going to choose to go after, and what you're electing not to go after, and why, and he asks all those questions. He did that in this case, but it's an iterative process, and I would fully expect, Kelly, that because, as I said, this will be a response over time. You should expect that the president will continue to weigh options ahead of him, continue to ask tough questions, continue to talk to his national security team as things go forward.
And does he want this to be a U.S.-only response, or would he welcome a military action from partners who've been a part of some of the other work in the region?
We're focusing on a U.S. response. They killed American troops.
When Kataib Hezbollah says that they will suspend attacks on U.S. forces, do you believe them? Would that spare them retaliatory strikes?
I'd say a couple of things. Number one, you can't take what a group like Kataib Hezbollah says at face value. Number two, as I said in my answer to Amr, they're not the only group that has been attacking us, and they're certainly not the only group that is a participant in this Islamic resistance of Iraq. So they're not the sole proprietors here of the violence that has been visited on our people. And number three, back to that point, there are 3 families that are going through the worst possible grief right now. And let me tell you something. When you talked about Dover, that's a tough day. That is a tough day. They killed American soldiers, and I'd leave it at that.
Just secondly, John, the Ron Dermer meeting, did Jake ask him about post-conflict Gaza, and do you have a better sense of how long this conflict is going to last?
I couldn't tell you how long it's going to last. The Israelis have spoken about this themselves, that this could go on for months. I'll let them speak to their operations and where they see it going. We obviously want to see this conflict end, and certainly we'd like to all see it end as soon as possible, but it has to end in a way that doesn't imperil the Israeli people from the threat of Hamas, which is right next door. So we're going to continue to support them in their efforts to do that. As for the discussion with Mr. Dermer, I know that it was focused on humanitarian assistance, on the hostages specifically, and the general situation in Gaza. I don't have more detail than that.